In 1984, Transformers was released and it became one of the biggest things of its time and still to this day. After the films in 1986, there was Season 3 and Season 4, but specifically we're going to be speaking about is Season 3, Episode 10,
A Thief in the Night.
So what is so special about this episode? Well, you've seen the title, so there must be something particularly wrong with it, and possibly this could be even worse than Mudflap and Skids from the Bay films. The fact that he wanted to kill them off, and actually indeed kill them off in Dark of the Moon. But before we get into this monstrosity of an episode, we need to know the context before jumping to conclusions. This is ShvrkBait, and welcome to the most controversial episode in Transformers history. Now, to set the scene, Trypticon, which is just Godzilla, robot, transformer that goes into a city, fights Metroplex, which is also a city transformer, and they're having a fight. The Autobots are rewatching this to see how good Metroplex was and the fact that he killed Trypticon. Or so we thought, and we realise in this that, in fact, Metroplex didn't destroy Trypticon, and he's still alive, walking about and causing havoc. Obviously, because Metroplex hasn't destroyed Trypticon, and that he needs to be the biggest transformer, apart from Omega Supreme, he's going to go out and destroy him. And obviously, the Autobots want the same because Trypticon is basically like Godzilla.
Though it isn't.
Going around, destroying everything, and just, quite frankly, being in their way. The next scene takes us to a cruise ship, and the captain talking about where they are and the fact they're on international waters and cannot get too close to this one country. Until suddenly, a robot Jakku friend comes along and starts firing at the ship to scare it away. Trypticon and his fellow buddy Octane are there to try and protect the country from anyone coming, especially Autobots, because they are there for one thing and one thing only: oil to make super energon to keep the guy alive, because he's a pretty big monster. And, you know, stealing oil in someone else's country is going to cause some issues. So Abdul, the dictator, comes along and goes, "You can't be doing this, and I want you out unless the Autobots want to chuck you out themselves." And they're like, "Oh, no, we want to live here because they need the oil for super energon." So Trypticon get big, destroy the Decepticons, and take over the world without Galvatron even having a foot in the door. So Abdul, the dictator, goes, "Well, there's only one way you can live here, and that is to get me gold. But not just any gold, all the gold in the United States of America." The Trypticon's like, "Oh, okay, as long as I get to have this super energon, then I'll go and get it." So he goes to Fort Knox, grabs the gold, takes it back, and Abdul's like, "This is brilliant, but the country we live in, we need more tourism." So what does Trypticon do? Well, he's big enough, so he goes and steals some monuments. He steals a Taj Mahal, because obviously Abdul needs a new palace. Galvatron comes along and goes, "Hey, I'm not happy about this." So they come with a deal and say, "Well, what about if the Decepticons can live here, we get you more monuments, but we get to keep all the oil." And Abdul goes, "No, that's just not happening. I need you out." The Autobots come along, they have a fight, doesn't go too well, but Trypticon then disappears. Having some battles out in Moscow, he nicks one of the biggest monuments there, takes it back, and Metroplex is there to get his revenge. So they both meet back at this country. The Decepticons put Abdul in prison, Autobots come along, get them out of prison, Decepticons run away, and that's the story. That's literally the episode in a nutshell. And the thing is, in that context, it just sounds like a normal episode. Well, it's not. So we have to bear in mind this is 1986, so a lot of the normality then is very different to now, with what you can say, do, or even put in media. Is it Trypticon stealing is the problem, or the fact that he's a knockoff of Godzilla, or is it because they stole all the gold? Was that like a heist then? No, not at all. The dictator Abdul is his first name, but it isn't his last name. Let's set the scene. It's 10 years into a reign of a dictator who's in modern day Libya, and they didn't want to obviously call it the name because they didn't want to get any trouble for it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, what if we put a K in the front?" So Gaddafi is actually Gaddafi, the dictator from Libya who reigned for nearly 50 years. And it's understandable why they put him in there, because it was modern media, so they might as well base it off him, but it doesn't feel right. And when you watch it and he says his name is Gaddafi, you're like,
Abdul Fakati.
"Oh, this is
Fakati."
It doesn't feel great. But regardless of that, it's fair enough, you know, his name's Gaddafi, but where does it really hit the peak of why I'm talking about this episode in general, and why when you go on the YouTube comments, it's either going, "Oh, this is a brilliant episode," or going, "I can't believe they actually posted this." Where the episode is based in modern day Libya, they couldn't call it Libya. They had to give it a fictional name that ended in ear. So what would you call it? So as it's going to be a very stereotypical thing, and obviously how they're portrayed in the media, as he's showing this as somewhat terrorist, they need to think, what was a terrorist activity? You know, you could have called it a country, maybe Liberistan or something like that. No, why don't we call it this? Carbomia.
Carbomia.
Well, that sounds very similar to car bomb. Oh. Anyway, so Gaddafi is based in Carbomia, and you're like, okay, maybe this is a step too far. Maybe it isn't. Gaddafi isn't Libya. Well, let's check out the flag in this background. It's got the Muslim crescent on a green flag, and when he reigned, the flag was pure green. So it's very similar. It's actually crazy how they just left this in. Personally, if I went for a country, maybe Hijackia. Nah, that's not cool, man. But you get the gist of like Carbomia, Hijackia. All right. So how are you feeling about this? The way that it's very stereotypical and using Carbomia and famous dictators of the time. Comment down below. And how do I think of it? Well, Grimlock, say your thing.
May Grimlock say this, Grim.
Furthermore, I understand that obviously these are certain things in the episode that are controversial, but what was the outcome? Did it have any backlash? Well, it did. The person who played Cliffjumper, also known as the actor Cassie Kasem, who's also known for being famous for Shaggy and Robin, and personally, I think he's on legendary status of a voice actor, is Lebanese descendant and left in protest due to the stereotypes in this episode, which is very unfortunate because I liked Cliffjumper, he's awesome. And I think it's not just Cliffjumper, but Teletran 1. So that's why in this episode, randomly Teletran 2 appears. In the modern day, naturally, things like this would never been shown in the light or found like a random YouTube video or Reddit. The question is, should this episode even been shown in modern day? And the answer is yes. I do not believe that you should hide away media like this because it shows you how over time it's matured and the norms that were fine back then are different now, and to learn from these mistakes. I think in the scheme of things, if you're a child watching this, you probably wouldn't go,
"Oh, that's him."
You would just go,
It's a Transformers episode.
because that's what it's for. It's for kids. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. Was rewatching the series and I came up to this episode and I was like, oh wow, this is something or other. I think definitely you should go and watch this episode and have your opinion on this. It's only 20 minutes long and overall it's quite a good episode. It's very in-depth and Tripticon and Metroplex having their final fight is incredible. These biggest Transformers going head to head is pretty cool. But hey, what is your opinions on this? Is this something that should be deleted, kept, or you just think overall this is racist?
We should delete it, get rid of it, need a witch hunt, destroy Transformers.
No, that's just a very immature way of looking at it. And I think if you're mature enough, you'd watch this and go, do you know what? It is what it is. Funny enough, this episode is based in 2006, which is 30 years later, and the USSR are in it. So it's funny they believe that Gaddafi will be still going and the USSR will be still going. Isn't it crazy, the 80s?
And I need your word that you'll never cooperate with the Decepticons again.
Oh, you have my word of honor, Rodimus. In fact, I swear to you on the grave of my mother's camel and my uncle's goat and even my sister's donkeys. I say my brother's sheep and my nephew's roosters. Such fine roosters you never did see.
It's been your boy ShvrkBait. Thanks so much for watching. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe.